Nelifer has a story, the story at the moment is about the grooming gangs. It's come back because the Conservatives think there should be an inquiry. And let's just, before we get your view, Nelifer, let's have a listen to Keir Starmer responding to Kemi Badenoch's criticisms in Prime Minister's Questions yesterday.
The Prime Minister called for 9 inquiries in the last Parliament. Does he not see that by resisting this one, people will start to worry about a cover-up?
This sort of lies and misinformation and slinging of mud doesn't help them one bit. Doesn't help one bit. We already know what the major flaws are. And my argument is we should get on with that action.
What do you think?
So, the vote last night was in the government's favour, and essentially what they've done is they have rejected the calls by the Conservative Party to have another inquiry, the last one being completed 2.5 years ago. So very recently, just some numbers, took 7 years to write that inquiry by Alexis J. There were 20 recommendations that would cost, according to some papers, 10 billion, I believe, pounds. It would cost a fortune. And the reason that the Conservative Party, who were in charge at the time, didn't enact on that child sex abuse inquiry report was because it was too expensive. Disgusting, the Tories shout. Cowardice, the Tories shout at Keir Starmer's decision. But it's bizarre to me because your party's leader has called this kind of stuff insincere. And the Tory party's been actually chastised for
it's not his party's leader anymore, right? So because he's changed, he's gone to reform. I will mention as well, Robert Jenrick, who lost the leadership election to Kemi Badenoch, is running very hot on this story and has said that immigrants with alien cultures have medieval attitudes to women. And he's been criticised for saying there's certain cultures that we shouldn't allow people to come from.
Yeah, like mine, right? So I'm a Muslim woman.
But he's talking about national cultures. He's talking about, let's say, men coming from Afghanistan.
So I'm Afghan. So yeah. So essentially what he's saying is that my father or my brother are prone to being grooming gang people. Look, I can't take this seriously from a man who's never shown any interest in it.
Well, now you mentioned that, let's have a listen, because this is Nick Robinson on Radio 4's Today programme. And do you mind if I just play this quickly? OK, so this is Robinson asking Jenrick why, if he's so big on this grooming gang stuff, he didn't mention it earlier.
Well, I did discuss this with the Home Secretary, but it wasn't my portfolio. I did discuss it.
Did you raise it in the House of Commons?
Nick, I wrote about this last year, and I was criticised for it.
Yes, I've checked Hansard today, and it's not a perfect test. When you put in the name Robert Jenrick, grooming, no mention. Grooming gang,
I wrote about
no
this,
mention.
Nick, I
Rotherham,
wrote about this last year.
No mention. Oldham,
I wrote
no
about
mention.
this, Nick, last year,
Rochdale,
and was
no mention.
criticised by the
Child
media
sexual
for doing
abuse,
so.
no mention, Mr. Jenrick. Child rape, no mention. You have not raised, or have you? Please correct me if my search is wrong. The issue of mass gang rape and child sex abuse that you're so energised about, you have no evidence you raised it as a minister and no evidence that you've raised it in the House of Commons.
I thought that was devastating, Nelifer.
Absolutely. Well done, Nick. That was fantastic bit of journalism and holding power to account. I think the Tories have got a very short memory of the fact that they had 14 years, 15 years to enact any of this. I think there's been a bit of a Jenkins is facing essentially a backlash of people of the disingenuous nature of all of this, of the fact that when Badenoch
Tim, you don't agree?
Look, of course, it's relevant whether someone's raised it before. But I think most people listening, I thought it was a disgraceful interview, actually.
Did you?
Nick Robb, really did. And much more important, are we talking about it now? This is one of the biggest scandals in British post-war history, and it's still going on. Now, I don't think, actually, we do need another inquiry. It's all there in the J report. But what I do hope from this controversy is that there'll be an urgency and a commitment to implement that report in a way that might... I'm not making a party political point here. I'm just saying, by the British state. We know a year ago, if we were sat here, we'd have been talking about that post office drama. The British state still hasn't done what needs to happen on the post office. So it's not enough to have a report and say you're going to do stuff about it. Unless the public is angry and as energised as it currently is, I just don't believe that
surely this is about finding...
Tim, brilliant point. Fantastic, salient point. Do something about it. If you have, as a government, commissioned a report and the person that you commissioned...
I'm not disagreeing with you.
One moment.
Go on.
if you have commissioned a report, they tell you you've got to do this to save children, and you say, a bit too expensive, that's spaffing money up a wall, or whatever Mr. Johnson said, that's not a good enough attitude. And by the way, really important to mention, the Labour government have decided to enact some of the J report's suggestions. So, yes, something is being done about it, but not by the party that commissioned that report.
That's true, but what I am saying is that just because governments say they're going to do stuff, it can take a very long time to be implemented.
All right, okay.
And that's why the controversy is useful.